Mr. Chair, I'm Terri Henry. I am the Secretary of State of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. I am a former elected tribal council member and served as the first chairwoman of my tribal council. I am grateful for this opportunity to offer these comments regarding the accreditation standards that the accreditation body will apply to approve applications for this new participation status within the United Nations. Mr. Chair, we realize that in other parts of the world, indigenous institutions vary based on their historic experiences. We are here to support the overall question of enhanced participation at the UN to support indigenous institutions' input into UN processes by indigenous institution representatives of indigenous constituents. We are a democratically elected government that provides essential and robust governmental services covering a broad range of resources to our member citizen constituency of over 15,000 Cherokees. We support the statement by the Indian Law Resource Center and Mr. Will Micklin from earlier this morning. Accreditation standards must be strong but flexible and responsive to the differences among indigenous governing institutions in various regions of the world. The process of accreditation for indigenous governing institutions must assure that applicants are in fact indigenous and are genuine, duly chosen representatives of the people and governing institution they purport to represent. While the accreditation body or committee could be responsible for elaborating standards and procedures for accreditation, a preliminary set of criteria for consideration of application follows. Self-identification alone should not be sufficient for accreditation, though it must be taken into consideration. Rather, an applicant should provide documentary or other evidence of its identity as indigenous and of its character as an authentic indigenous governing body of the indigenous people concerned. Applicants should be requested to provide initially, among other things, documentation or other reliable evidence establishing their existence as a government or governing institution, authorizing the application to be made and designating one or more representatives. Documentation could include written or oral testimonies or statements. Each applicant should also, for example, briefly describe the people, indigenous nation, or community that it represents, the governing powers or authority that it exercises, and the principal officials or office holders in the government. The committee should consider evidence and views from all relevant sources. State recognition should be a consideration for accreditation, but cannot be a necessary criterion. Recognition by other indigenous peoples, however, can serve as some evidence that an indigenous governing institution is genuine and entitled to participate in the United Nations. Thank you for this opportunity.